Hi there, it's Jody Lawyer, holistic occupational therapist at Helix Healing Path, and for today's mini lesson I thought we would focus on self-regulation and give you some important strategies that you can do to learn how to manage your emotions. Self-regulation is this ability to respond to any kind of ongoing demand within the environment, whether that's something that's coming towards you, at you, or with a person. And so we know that we can have a range of responses to various stimuli and experiences that come about. For example, last week, or I think it was on a couple weeks ago, I came out to my car and my car battery had died. And I took a deep breath and I problem solved it. I thought, okay, what can I do? And it ended up working out. These gentlemen came by and they jumped my car and it worked out, and I got myself down to the dealership and it all worked out. But had I blown up or had I freaked out, it may not have worked out the way I wanted. So it was really good for me too to gauge how far I've come in terms of my own self-regulation, because we are always learning new tools and strategies, and we're always gauging the nervous system, because that is how we can see when we're showing up in a particular situation, how far we've come, or maybe where we need to work a little bit more on honing some of these skills. So it's this ability as well to delay spontaneous reactions, or delayed gratification, for example. That's another way to look at it. When we're angry, stressed, sad, or just really, really excited, that's another way. People always think that self-regulation is about when you're feeling triggered and you're really angry, but it's also about when you're really excited about something too, and how to just kind of sit with things and let things kind of unfold as they need to. It is one of the most important qualities that we can learn as human beings, and this provides us to have this edge and be able to be flexible and grow with these different situations that come about. And we learn self-regulation early on as children, and this is modeled to us, or how we showed up in a particular situation, or when we didn't get our demands met, or how we needed to act in order to get attention. So this can carry on into adulthood, and we learn eventually that the things that we maybe did as kids, like stomped around and had temper tantrums, is not going to fly when you are working with a boss or a partner or family relationships, whatever that might be. So we have to learn this really important skill as we mature, and if we want to really learn how to manage our nervous system. So we can actually learn how to influence our nervous system by making deliberate choices and how we want to respond to a particular stress. And so we can train our body then to control some of these autonomic responses, whereas maybe we would have flown off the handle like 3 years ago, and now you look at where you're at and how you've grown yourself. Self-regulation actually involves many different domains. It's cognitive, it's motor, it's sensory, emotional, social, behavioral, and there's always motivation. And so this requires this constant introspection and this cognitive awareness to evaluate where our body is feeling in regards to the external environment or with another particular person. And so learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to practice the pause, learning different tools to get into the body, to delay that response from being carried out, because we all know that we've said things that we wish we could take back, but you can't once those words are emitted. So this allows you then to just sit for a few minutes and really make decisions about, is this what you really want to put out there or say? And don't get me wrong, I've made lots of mistakes in the past and wish I could take some things back that I've said, but that's not always the case. And so all you can do is forgive and move yourself forward and just keep on practicing these types of skills. So self-regulation happens gradually. You don't have it all figured out in one showing. And you know, when I worked in pediatrics, we were always working on self-regulation with kids, and it's a little bit more difficult because their brains aren't all developed. And so giving them really simple strategies that they can implement, and really the same kinds of things happen as adults. All we have to do is stop for just a moment and practice that pause, because it's heavily influenced by the environment. Sometimes you can even get really dysregulated from just a really overcrowded place, like going to the state fair, going to a place where you feel really crowded, and then removing yourself from that environment and just allowing yourself to just be for a few minutes can really have a positive effect then on the nervous system. Because it's not always just about something that somebody says or that person really made me mad. Sometimes it's about this environment and things that are beyond your control. So learning how to be in control in your body when everything around you seems out of control. And that is your biggest weapon, if you will, in terms of being able to just be in your body and practice that grace, that calm, that peace, that even when you feel like you're falling apart inside. The stress response cycle can be activated. A PTSD response can occur when we are especially dysregulated. So being mindful of how you are feeling in the body, your pupils may dilate, your breathing may become more shallow, which is the chest breathing. And that's because it's preparing us to want to run away from a particular situation. And you can feel that rising up in the body. And so learning how to discriminate between your different cues and how things are feeling in the body will be essential to help you with this introspection and this self-awareness. One of the things that I really love to teach is, your reaction to a particular situation or person needs to match how big this problem is or whatever this thing is. So for example, if you spill a glass of water all over the floor and you totally freak out, that will probably be a really big response to a very minor problem. Now, however, if you spilled a glass of water or your coffee all over your computer or your phone, that might be a little bit bigger because it's an electronic. So things that are really big, like fires, natural disasters, and going through big life events, a death or divorce, those are probably bigger types of situations, and sometimes you might get a little bit more dysregulated because you got all the stress like looming around in the background. Other things like, maybe you went and got a bad haircut, and they cut your bangs like up to here, and remember those days when you were a kid, and you felt really stressed, and maybe you're a little bit dysregulated. Well, honestly, it's not that big of an issue, but in your world, it probably seems like a big deal. So you have to really take a look at what kinds of things warrant these larger responses, and if you could say, yes, I think that I can say that, yes, this is a big deal, then that's your thing. But a lot of times it really has to do with perception, and maybe what you're perceiving as something is a really big deal when it's not. And so sometimes getting feedback from other people can be helpful, and bouncing ideas with friends and sharing some of your thoughts so that you can see where you are at in terms of your response. Some of the indicators that you can ask yourself, which helps you learn a little bit about introspection, is, can you identify your likes and your dislikes? I mean, that is one of the number one things, because if you don't know what sets you off or what can make you dysregulated, you're gonna have a really hard time. So you have to know, and that includes all of the sensory things like taste and touch and sound and movement. So it's not that, but then it's also environments. Do loud, crowded places make you dysregulated? Do you prefer quiet? So learning that, and what kinds of personalities do you tend to gravitate towards? So that can be another indicator. Do you demonstrate empathy towards yourself, towards peers, towards family members? Can you talk about your fears and your phobias? Can you interpret the body language of other people? Those are all important strategies. Can you allow yourself to be comforted by others when you're agitated, instead of like, oh, I'm fine, I can do it myself? Well, I know I used to be like that, but you know what? We all need that human connection and that human touch. So being able to allow yourself to feel cared for is very important. And so then what happens is then you learn how to retrain yourself and to learn and to do some acceptable things that will help you move forward. Can you say no without becoming angry, or if a boundary is being imposed upon you? Because we know when we love to push back on boundaries, don't we? Can you accept your mistakes? Can you say you're sorry for certain things? Can you deal with unexpected changes in routines, or if something throws you way off, like my car battery, which is really not that big of a deal. But it was just a little bit stressful because it was at the end of the day, and I'm like, I'm just really tired and I just want to go home. So those kinds of things. So all of this really does play into how you regulate. And then part is paring it down and identifying what it is, what's the problem, what it really truly is. Sometimes when we get into an argument with a person or even a coworker that just bugs us, a lot of times it's not even about the situation right in front of us. It happens to be about stuff from our past that we haven't dealt with, or maybe it was modeled to us a certain way, or we engaged in a certain way to help us self-regulate, and so then we're playing out that role in our present life. So this is where that self-awareness becomes so important, in learning how to really get into your own unconscious brain and find out what it is are those blocks that are causing you to self-regulate a certain way. Because the truth is, your self-regulation is really about you. This is your responsibility, and learning how to do things. So that's why I talk about yoga so much, and retraining those neural pathways, becoming more mindful is important, because anything that you can do to help your parasympathetic nervous system be in the forefront so that your sympathetic nervous system is over here not running the show is the biggest thing. And that also works on increasing your vagal tone, which the more increased vagal tone you have, then you're overall more calm. Now, I'm not saying that people cannot get upset, and on occasion we do fly off the handle, but how fast can you get yourself back to baseline is the biggest indicator of how you are self-regulating. We all know that movement is one thing. Just getting up and moving around your desk, going for a quick walk will be helpful. Jumping jacks, slow deep breathing into the nose, out through the nose for 5 to 10 breath cycles, or going maybe even a little bit longer, like 2 to 3 minutes. And if you can listen to some music or sing or engage in a quick modulation break. If you're at work, maybe you can do an app on the phone to help you with that. Just anything that you can do. Now, sometimes when we're in the actual moment, like you're right there, butting heads with somebody, right then and there, you're going to stop and practice the pause. 3 to 5 seconds before responding. And this can also entail breathing in through the nose and out through the nose very slowly. If you do that, you will stop it in its tracks, and then you can respond. And so sometimes you might have to take even a little bit longer, though, to wait to respond to something, especially if it's like a text message, or if it's you might want to say, I need to step away for the moment and let's talk about this later. And that will give you a more adaptive edge, because then you're not going to be saying something that's so reactive to another individual. When you're thinking about mindfulness in terms of how you are responding, you want to really approach it from like you're outside of your body, kind of watching it, and try to be as non-judgmental as possible. And this will help shift things around a little bit too. You want to be an observer, and you're also an observer, but you're also a participant when you're in that particular situation. But really taking a look at what can you do to let go of some of the painful emotions, because you might be feeling shame coming up, you might be feeling grief or sadness or a lot of fear. Fear and anger are interesting, because anger is often sitting at the bottom when it's really, and then fear seems like it's driving it, like you want to run away from something, when it's really that you're really angry about something. So again, learning how to let go of some of these painful emotions, and that's why doing deeper meditation can be so healing for the body, and working with a DBT therapist or doing the neural rewiring like I do with TwinRT will help you rewire the brain so that you're not hanging on to these past painful emotions that are mucking up your system and making you keep on responding the way that you were, and it's not getting you anywhere. So some other things that you can do, taking care of your body, making sure that you're really carving out that self-care, whatever that might be, reading, journaling, being with friends, being in nature is very calming and grounding. Having fun, learning how to really just carve out that time and putting the stress away. Sometimes we have to leave it on the shelf for a little bit because it's not going to go anywhere if we're dealing with a big situation. And sometimes going out with a friend and can actually help shift the brain even more. So if you're struggling with controlling your emotions, so stop is something you just want to pick that pause, as I mentioned before, 3 to 5 seconds, take your breath and observe the breathing in and the out. Focus on how that feels in your body, because when you shift your attention from the brain into the breath, it helps to turn off whatever the feedback loop is in your brain that was causing you to feel stressed. And then again, observe. This is where you become really mindful. What is in your thoughts right now? What's going on in your mind? What are you reacting to? Are you really truly reacting to the situation in front of you, or is it old stuff that's rearing its head and that is causing things to kind of fall apart? And really pulling back, and what's the bigger picture? Again, does my reaction match the size of whatever the problem is that's right in front of you? And so these are really unique and specialized to each of you, because you all have your own threshold of what can be triggering for you, and learning how to get in your body and find the tools that help you the best. But I know, many years ago when I started yoga, and then my daughter was older, so I mean, she was probably like 13, 14, and I would go at night, 8 o'clock, and I'd say, "Oh, I don't know if I should go. Maybe I should stay home, and I shouldn't leave you." Her older brother was home too, and she's saying, "No, Mom, you need to go." And so I knew that yoga was a very healing practice for me, and that's what helped me really learn to just feel more calm and empowered, so that I wasn't flying off the handle all the time and being triggered by the smallest things. And sometimes today, I might fly off the handle, and my son always jokes with me. He's like, "God, Mom, you get so mad, and then you're like normal within a minute." And I said, "Well, I know it's because I just have to get it out, and then I'm fine." So, I still sometimes fly off the handle about things, but I usually come back to baseline pretty fast, and I don't let things really get me down. So that is our mini lesson on self-regulation. It's important for you to learn how to identify what it is that is making you feel so dysregulated, and then to work on getting more calm in the body and increasing that vagal tone. If you want to reach out or you have more questions, please do so at jody@helixhealingpath.com. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.